This working? This working? Yes. On screen. Okay. So today, what I'm going to do, since I forgot to render some video out during my class yesterday for one of my students, Alyssa, we're going to recreate a scene-ish. We'll have a little bit of fun with it, and it won't be as good as the one she has, but at least we'll get a semblance of how to set up a scene and also do a little library, because I think you guys will enjoy that, and also I forgot to record the video, so we'll go ahead and do that now. And so with this book that we have here, if you go to my YouTube channel, you go to playlist, if I've organized this correctly, let's see, yeah, okay, live stream full episodes. I haven't put the latest polygroup at lives. Okay, I guess I did do that. So like Pavwork 40, Pavwork 38, you can kind of see we've been working on this book on and off. So we're going to make a little library real quick and maybe make some more objects and put them in a little scene here and maybe do a little bit of rendering. Hey everybody, thanks for showing up. Fury and Zen and Oleg and Tufan and AK Chang and Arham. We're going to make a little library real quick. So how we're going to do that. And that was just a book, and we can use that book, or we can make our own books later if we're just going to like stack books on a shelf here. So first we got to make our shelves. If we're going to make like a bookshelf, how I'm going to start is we'll just grab Polymesh 3D here, and that doesn't look too much like a bookshelf. But if we go to initialize down here, do a Q cube, now we have a little square, and we can go ahead. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a deformation unify, just so I know a little bit better the ZBrush native scale we're working in. If it doesn't really matter about where the floor is in real life. So usually when you export out a ZBrush, that floor plane, even though it's down here, it's going to snap down to the bottom because you have elevation set to -1. In reality, if you were to like export this into Maya, Max, or Modo, your floor plane is going to be right down the middle of this object. So you can use that information if you wanted to be like, okay, I'm going to alt drag over those, and then we'll just Q-mesh those out. Now I know the bottom of this object here is actually in world 000, so you can plan accordingly. But we can call this our bookshelf. And we're going to clean this up a little bit. We'll go insert single edge loop. And you didn't have to do this. You could go Q cube and set your resolution to 1. And I'm way too lazy for that. So we're going to go ahead and stretch this out. Now bookshelves aren't usually this deep, you know, because books, you know, stack them this way, whatever you want to do. Now to get the overall frame, we're going to go to inset a single poly, each poly, and we're just going to go ahead and inset this a little bit. Well, there's two ways we can go about this. Number one, you can do insert multiple edge loops, and you can go bring, and then set your shelves this way. And then, you know, depending on how many shelves you want. So let's say we want 4, and then we'll hit Control W, make this all in polygroup a little bit easier to work with. And then if I want to go ahead and polygroup these, I'm going to do polygroup a single poly, and then you can just tap Alt to cycle through new polygroups. There we go. So there's obviously different. And now we can go to inset a single poly here. So we can go inset 1, 2, 3, 4, just tapping. And then we can Alt, 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 Alt. And then we can Q-mesh straight back. So that's one way to do it. If you want the ability to move the shelves around or make these things thicker than the shelves, I mean, you can still do that. You can go like, let's polygroup a poly loop here. Q-mesh polygroup all. Give me some. There we go. Q-mesh polygroup all like this. And now this one you're going to see we have blue out here and then blue on this side, same polygroup. So in this case I'm going to do polygroup island, and since these polygroups aren't touching, now I can just pull this out. So you can do a little fancy modeling in here, or if you had planned ahead, you know, you could do a double inset and then pull out, I don't know, that's one way to do it. Another way to go about it is just to inset this single poly here, and then we'll say Q-mesh, a single poly, I suppose. We could just do polygroup all. If you pull all the way through, it's going to want to Q-mesh to this side. If you wanted to just get a frame, you can go in here to inset a single poly, and now you can just Q-mesh through here. And now you've got a frame, and you can stack little shells in here. And that, you know what, that might work. I was going to just Q-mesh a single poly back, and then before I hit that, let's go, you'll see if I make my brush size really big, and it sticks. As we push this back, if I make my brush size really small as I push this back, I guess it's about the same. You can force this thing to snap sooner or later, depending on when it hits. Another thing I'm going to do just to get total control is I'm going to mask a single poly, invert that mask, hit W, and just go push back up. Mask a single poly. Oh, you know what? Let's hold down Control, and that'll just pull in so we can kind of extrude. And I can go to the back here, and I can say, oh, I'm poking through, so we'll just leave a little bit of space in here. So that's about the depth of the shelf. If I want to change these dimensions, I can hold down Control and Alt, and then just use the move. Or I can Control Alt this side and just use the move, whatever I want to do. If I want to work symmetrically, do a quick mirror and weld, and that way I know I can hit X, and I can work symmetrically in here. Hey, Assam, thanks for showing up. Let me make sure I got some more hot water. Mr. Lampas, am I Russian? I think, we're going way back, I think I've been told, what was on my ancestry DNA? I forget. I think I'm Croatian. I think. But I've also been told I have a very Ukrainian name and a very Russian name, so who knows? It's all a big mystery. Let me go ahead and mask. If I mask these ones, I just Alt-tapped and then hit W and then hold down Alt and go to Unmatched Mesh Center. I can now scale these out a little bit more. And now we have our basic bookshelf, and we'll have separate shelves inside of here. So easy way to get separate shelves is you can hold down Alt, drag over these, and then you can do Q-Mesh. Polygroup all, we'll say. You can hold down Control, and now you can just pull up these little shelves just by holding down Control. Now, this one, we're going to do Polygroup Island, just so we're not doing anything weird here, so you can just pull out shelves like that. Now, these are separate meshes. So if I do Control-Shift-A, we're just pulling out these little shelves in here. Alternatively, what I would probably do, let's go ahead and delete hidden, is I like to work more like this, where I'm going to duplicate this off, go into solo mode, hold down Alt and mark these ones. We can just go ahead and pull down Control just to grab a little shelf off here. I'm going to delete hidden, and now I've got a separate subtool. You could have split those off under the split menu here, however you want to work, but I usually duplicate off and then just use that geo to inform what I want to make next. So we're going to toss these shelves in here. And now I have this shelf in here. Now we can use a couple different techniques to make shelves. We can hold down if you're on my YouTube channel and you go to, let me make sure I don't have anything bad on this screen here. Here we go. And by bad, I just mean personal information. ZBrush 2018, what's new? If you click on this one, warm water. So if you scroll down here, you're going to see there's way down here at the bottom, I think. I don't know, somewhere in here. Here it is, Gizmo multi-copy. So you guys already know. If you hold down Control and you drag out a copy, you can do that. You can drag out another copy, you can do that. Also, you can turn on the sticky. You can drag out a copy, and the Gizmo snaps back, and now you can hit 1. And you can do copies like that. Or you can turn sticky off. You can hold down Control, drag out a copy, and then with your mouse or pin still held down and letting go of Control, you can now just keep dragging, and it will keep dragging out copies evenly spaced. So you can do that. Alternatively, we like alternatives in ZBrush. We can go over here to Array Mesh, and if we're looking at just a really super silly low scene, non-destructive as heck, we can go over here to Array Mesh here, and we can say, I'm going to make a new array mesh. We're going to offset this thing in the Y amount. So if we start offsetting this, oh, not in the Y amount. Okay, this is good. Oh yeah, no, that should be in the Y amount. Offset X. Okay, it is in the Y amount. I don't know what I was doing there. So we can offset in the Y amount here, and then we can say how many repeats do we want. And we could also do this just with the gizmo, but not the gizmo, the transpose line. So we can lock position, lock size, turn on transpose. If I hit W, I have the gizmo. I'm going to hit Y or hit this little button up here. And now we have a transpose line, which has our stage and repeats. So now I can just dial in my repeats using this thing. And then I can also, if I have W selected, I can also move, oops. I can move the middle one, and that'll put my end stage where I want it. So I can go, okay, I want this many repeats. And then I want to put that end stage thereabouts. And if I turn off transpose, now I can move this entire bottom one to kind of position it, and then I can turn transpose back on, and now I can control where this ends up. And then if I turn off transpose, I can move this back and forth. Another thing I can do is we can put our shelves in there. I think that'll be good. I was going to say we can turn these into nanomesh, but I don't see a real good reason to do that just yet. Unless I wanted to space these differently in a very kind of non-destructive way, we could do that. We'll leave these alone for now. The thing I want to do is let's go ahead and put a little bevel on these edges. Why is my monitor going nuts? Okay, so what I can do is underneath geometry here, you got dynamic subdivisions. If we turn off dynamic, turn on dynamic, that'll go ahead and give you a preview of what it would look like if we hit smooth. In this case, if I wanted to use smooth subdivisions, I'd probably want to crease all. Two different ways to go about this. Give me a second. So in this case, we're going to crease all our edges. Looks the exact same. However, if we say like crease level of 3, smooth subdiv of 4, now we're getting that kind of look. And of course, you'd probably want to put in little support loops, insert single edge loop here so you can kind of tighten up these corners a little bit to get this look, and then you can do Shift D to turn that off, and then D to turn that back on. But instead of doing that, let's go ahead and undo. I'm going to do smooth subdiv of 1, Q grid of 5, and you can do flat subdiv 2 up to a certain point, but we'll use Q grid. So with Q grid here, we can change the coverage. Q grid, and we'll turn on dynamic. And now as I change this coverage down, we're just going to build in a little bevel. If we zoom in here, you can change it from a bevel to a chamfer to kind of round those corners out a little bit. You can do a bevel and a chamfer. We'll just do a chamfer. We'll change that coverage. And as we have our smooth subdivision, we set that to 0. If we set it to 1, doesn't really make much of a change. Set it to 2. Let's see, bevel. Q grid of 5. I thought that should do something. But I guess not too much. All right, so we'll say chamfer, smooth subdiv of 0, I suppose, Q grid of 5, and then change our coverage just to dial that in. And we can always, this is completely non-destructive. We're not adding any real subdivisions here, so we can do Shift D, and we can continue to model on this thing or insert it wherever we want. We don't even need creases on there, I don't think. Let's do uncrease all, hit D, yeah. Oh, you know what? Maybe that's why the smooth wasn't working, because we had it all creased. So smooth subdiv of 1. There we go. So now we can use Q grid to dial in our bevel amount. And if it gets a little, like, let's change our coverage here. So we can say, oh, we want big fat bevels, but we're getting, it's blocky in there. Turn your smooth subdiv up to 1, and now you'll get a little softer fall off in there. And again, it's all non-destructive. So you can use a combination of Q grid and smooth subdivisions on that one. This one here, we can do the same thing. I kind of wish there was a way to save those settings. We can just go dynamic, Q grid of 5, coverage, just give it a little bit of thing here, and then smooth subdiv of 1, no creasing, uncrease all. There we go. So now you got little bookshelves in there and a little bookshelf on the outside. Non-destructive. We're only working with, move these over. Yeah, 42 points. So this is a very small scene. We'll go ahead and quick save. Oh, speaking of, give me a second. I need to do a little housekeeping here. Oh, this monitor is going to kill me. I need to restart my computer, I guess. Hold on. We're looking for ZBrush 2018 data. Recovered. Quick save counter recovered. Just need to make sure I clear all that out. Okay, quick save again. Hey everybody, thanks for showing up. How come inset on a rectangular face makes the side and top planks of the different thickness? That's a little bit, that's kind of a known issue, I think. So for example, if we go in here and we say we want to inset this polygroup ball, and then we want to do a region, so we get both of these. We are getting different thicknesses sometimes around here, especially on just a square object. So in this case, if we don't do a region, yeah, you're getting a little thinner. I guess that's a bad example. Let's see if we can make it more obvious. This side here. There we go. So we're getting thinner on the sides, and in this case, I would say, go back to our gizmo here, I can just control click. Maybe not. We can go into our ZModeler brush here and say mask, polygroup all, and then we can say W, go to Unmask Mesh Center, which doesn't seem to be working that great. And kind of, it's not a great solution. I understand that. I think if you hold down Shift, it'll make it square, but that's not really going to help you here. So if we do inset single poly each and hold down Shift, that makes it a square one. But obviously that's not really going to help us in that case. Yeah, so I don't know, not an ideal solution to go in there and mask and scale stuff around, but Matthew says, I have a dragon with 10 million polygons right now. I want to make it around 10,000 polygons. You're going to want to go to Z plugin, decimation master, preprocess, all if you have separate subtools, and then just decimate it down. Cool. Hey, Pro, thanks for showing up. So we've got our little bookshelf here. Now let's stack this thing with some books. And also let's make sure we don't have any, yeah, okay. So we want to put some books in here. I do have a book in here, so we have a little placeholder book. If I wanted to, I could make this into just a really quick nano mesh, or I can make it into an insert mesh brush. I can snap it to the side. B, create insert mesh new. So if you have a book that you want to use, you can just grab it, throw it onto your bookshelf here. Now, because I have dynamic subdivisions turned on, it's inheriting those dynamic subdivision properties. If I don't really want it to, I can just insert a poly mesh here, and I'll throw that down at the bottom. I'm just going to move this behind out of the way. So I'm going to use this brush to have no properties on it, and then I can just move this book on here, and then we can just hold down Control, and then put in some books, or use array mesh like we did with this, or even use nanomesh, which we'll get to in a second. But this book's a little too fancy for this particular bookshelf, so we're going to go ahead and undo that. And what we're going to do now is make a book real quick. So we'll go out of edit mode, and we'll just use this poly mesh here. I suppose we'll go into solo mode here. And again, we're going to go down here to initialize, QCube, unify. And let's go ahead and make a book real quick. So Unmask Mesh Center, scale this up a bit. And let's go ahead and I'm going to hollow this thing out. So I'm going to mark these ones, and I'm just going to pull down QMesh, polygroup all. Actually, let's do this. All these ones, my monitor drive me crazy. Delete, single poly here. And then we're going to hold down Control and Alt and pull this back. So this will be our kind of generic book. And now I can go through here. I can do bevel, edge loop complete. And you know what? Let's work in X symmetry here. And then we can do insert multiple edge loops, and we'll say interactive elevation, and we'll kind of round these edges out just a little bit. And we'll go to insert single edge loop, and we'll kill those and kill that, I suppose. Take Control W. So this is our kind of our book. If we want to round this one out, we can certainly do that. We can say, we can mark this one. Let's do insert multiple edge loops, interactive elevation, and then we can just pull through here and kind of round this out a little bit if we want. Do a quick mirror and weld, make sure it's mirrored, and then we can stretch this out just a little bit. Something like that. Okay, so we've got our basic book binding. If we want to get a little bit fancier, we can go to insert multiple edge loops, turn off interactive elevation, and we'll just drop in, say, you know what? I was going to say we can just do like 1, 2, 3, and then bevel these. So just go in here and like bevel here. Oops. 1, 2, 3 to get them spaced out. You can also go through there and put in your multiple edge loops. That's fine. So let's go ahead and do insert single edge loop. We'll go ahead and block that one off here. So we've got our 3 little ridges that we want to put in here. So I'm going to just alt mark these ones. And then we'll just quickly QMesh, polygroup all here. And then we can go mask. Nope. Over an edge. Mask. Edge. We're going to go mask 1. 2, 3. You can slide them if you just wanted to slide 1, but I want to slide 3, so I'm just going to mask them off. And before I did that, actually, it's always about order of operations, man. Let's do QMesh, all polygons. Pull these in. We're going to need to go down here to display properties, flip, and then we can just fill this in. Trying to make this you know what? We're just going to use the book ends because we're never going to see the inside. If you want to go back to the other videos, you can fill it with pages. I'm not going to do that again. It's fun, but not really necessary for what I'm doing now. And now we can go back in here, QMesh, polygroup all, and then mask an edge. And then move up. Now on this one, if we hit D, it's really going to soften that out. So I'm going to do a crease here under your crease menu. We're going to do a crease level of 2, smooth subdiv of 3, and now we can go in here. We can soften these up a little bit too. We can go crease and edge, hold down Alt and uncrease these little transitions in here. And we can also, we could probably round these out a little bit more as well if we wanted to. But they're fine. They're fine. And this is where you can go in here and add your support loops while you're looking at it. So you can insert these and, you know, clean up these corners a little bit. You can also go through here and you can say, you know what, I want to crease this, crease edge loop complete here, depending on the look you're going for. Let me, hold on just a second. Something like that. Okay, so we've got a nice cheap book. Let's see. Whoa, I'm way behind in the chat. Sorry about that. Needs to be quads for games with decimates. Okay, so you can use ZRemesher. And we've gone over that a ton of times. Go to my YouTube channel here. And I'm trying to think. Live stream highlights. Go way back here. We use ZRemesher on clothing. We use ZRemesher on anatomy. We use ZRemesher and ZSphere retopology together to kind of do a cleanup. We do ZRemesher, I think, down here for cleaning up sculpt scan data. And yeah, right here too, ZSphere topology cleanup on an anteater mesh. You can also use polygroup head ZRemesh and cleanup if you need edge loops here. So a ton of different ways to go about getting quads where you want. Or you can just manually retopologize the whole thing in ZBrush. A flat heart shape method to do a nice crisp shape. So if we wanted to say stamp this is going to be our heart book. We can go in here. Since I'm super lazy, I'm probably just going to go into a make polymesh 3D on a plane, divide this thing up, hit X to go across X symmetry, and we can just mask out a heart shape. And then we can hold down Control Alt and we can clean this up. But really, I'm just looking to do, you can hit Control W, make a polygroup, but in this case, we're going to do a geometry, delete lower, and then geometry edge loop, where we can do edge loop mask border. That'll kind of slice through, and now we can do delete hidden. And now we can do ZRemesher, depth of size down to 0, half. We have X turned on, so we're getting symmetrical. And I'm just going to let ZRemesher do the heavy lifting on the topology for me. I can help it out a little by like, I want this to be pointy, and I want this to be rounder. And then you can keep hitting half. If you want to maintain a little bit more, you can say adapt the size up a little bit. It's not going to work. So you can do this really quickly, and now you've got a heart shape. And then QMesh, polygroup all, you can give it a little bit of thickness. And now we can do crease polygroup, dynamic, smooth subdiv, crease level 3, smooth subdiv of 4. And now you've got like a heart shape like that. You can clean this up. You can also just, if you wanted total control over your edge loops, you can go in here with your topology brush and make a heart shape and then just divide it up, or you can go in here with your Z-sphere topology and divide it up. If you want the end point to be sharper, that's just going to go in here and say crease edge, and now you can crease this edge. There you go. So now if I wanted to stamp this on my book, B, create insert mesh new, and go back up here to my book, and then, oops, insert mesh here, and we can just stamp that right on our book. So here's our Care Bear book. Now, I can just leave that, and that's kind of just on my book here. I can also, if I want to emboss it on the book, I can dynamesh this and do a subtractive, or I can do split mass points. We'll put that below the book. We'll turn that on to a subtractive mesh. And let's go ahead and hide our bookshelves for now. And we can say Boolean, and then we can push that in, and now we can kind of cut that heart into our book. Cool, cool. Javier asks, what am I drinking? I am drinking warm water. It used to be hot water, and then it goes warm quick. Solve lag issues in 2018 when rotating, moving, and viewport. I have a good PC. When I give above 3 to 4 millions, but when ZBrush work normally at 20 plus million. I haven't had that problem. Oh, did I skip your question? Sorry, I'll go back up. 3 to 4 million. So I don't have any lag issues in 2018. What I might suggest is, I mean, it's probably not what you're running into, but if at any point you have dynamic subdivision turned on, or it's like, oh, I want to sculpt on this, and I'm going through here and it's like, oh, what is going on? It might be because, and again, it's probably not what you have, but just in case, if you have dynamic turned on for anything that's not just a super low res mesh, it's going to give you a preview of 95,000 times 3 subdivision levels on here. So if I go even higher, it's going to be like, looks like it's pretty cheap, but then when you try and sculpt on it, since it's giving you a preview of millions of polygons, it's going to behave slow and erratically, kind of choppy. So that would be one way. But yeah, my subtools, I try and keep individually between 4 and 5 million, and I haven't had a problem yet on 2018. Cool. And yeah, the hot water is just because I usually get complaints about my voice at 5:30 in the morning. Let's see, I'm looking for Clap's question. Did I deep up? A function in Maya to snap away polys, like with QMesh from ZBrush. For example, if I have a 3x3 poly, I want to remove one cube. I don't. Yeah, so this functionality here, there might be a way. It's actually been a while since I've hopped into ZBrush, or hopped into Maya. So for example, our Polymesh 3D here, initialize QCube, here, unify. This is one of the reasons why I like QBrush, or the QMesh brush here, because we can do like QMesh single poly, and it will, snap all the way through my mesh, and I don't have to go in here and bridge this stuff. Or I can take any one of these, and we can say align full step. And now this is where if I make my brush size big, it's going to take a while before it snaps back. If I make my brush size small, it'll just snap back immediately. That's what I was getting at earlier in the video. So I can just snap back through here. I can snap back through here, and I can snap back through here, and I can snap up. So I can kind of start really doing this really quickly. In Maya, there's a way you can use topology. You can snap verts together quickly using the modeling toolkit, but the ability to just like snap through an object and have it bridge automatically, I don't know of a way to do that. Oleg says, Michael, you have any hints for sculpting cloth with some thickness? Oh, I got tons of hints for that. So if you go through this channel on the live stream highlights, sorry I'm missing a lot of questions over there. I'm a little bit behind. Live stream highlights has a ton of, here's pants. Oh, also, you can go into the, specifically for that, the Where am I at? There is a ZBrush to Marvelous Designer quick start. Now, you can use Marvelous Designer. You don't have to. On some of these live stream highlights and on the live stream full episodes, if you scroll through, you'll see like, oh, here's how you can make a quick shirt and give it some thickness and ZBrush and sculpt on it. Or here's how you can take Marvelous Designer cloth into ZBrush, Z-remesh it, give it some thickness. So, think retopology of something character creature, Z-remesh can make the work for me. I need to make the right topology by hand. Yeah, use Z-remesher. And again, I'm scrolling pretty fast through these comments. They're coming fast and furious, so if I miss any, keep shouting them out. Going down, 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 down. The lag issues. With all the new features of ZBrush low poly modeling, how do you even still make use of Maya? What I do kind of use Maya for is very specific, well, pipeline stuff, because our backbone is, and our animation backbone pipeline goes through Maya, so we got to save our files, rig our files in Maya, and do weighting and stuff like that. So you do need some Maya knowledge. And then also in Maya, I've been using their UV tools a lot, just for very specific UV purposes. And I do some low poly cleanup in there. But you're right, I do most of my stuff in ZBrush nowadays. Pro says, Sculptors Pros know to slow down ZBrush if you're using that. Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you for bringing that up, Pro. In ZBrush 2018, what's new? There is a video called ZBrush 2018 Maximizing Sculptors Pro Performance. So that gets into, you know what, I'll go ahead and link you there while I'm sitting here. Let me say, share it. There you go. Oh, log in to reply. Oh, hold on. Yes, sign in. Gone. Gone. There you go. Best way to read topology in ZBrush. Topology brush, Z-sphere topology, Z-remesher, or Z-remesher into Z-sphere topology to clean it up. And you can find all those on my YouTube channel. We've done it a million times. Nazumi, thanks for showing up. Yeah, it's been a while. A lot of startup brushes imported along with matte caps and made custom UI buttons. Custom UI shouldn't be too bad. I have not an intensive custom UI, but it's a little custom. But yeah, maybe startup brushes. If you have just a monster number of crazy startup brushes that have to be loaded, maybe. And then, yeah, a bunch of materials that it has to load. I'm not sure if that would affect it too much, but maybe. Yeah, 404, thanks for showing up. And AKS. All right, so where were we at? We'll go back to here. So we've got our heart book here. Now, if I want to go ahead and, be destructive, I can go ahead and make a U-mesh if I am embossing that. So we turn on live properties here, or live Boolean mesh. Or I can merge them down. For now, we're just going to keep it simple because I'm going to be doing some weird stuff going on here. So I'm going to go ahead and just turn this all on. So we've got our book here. I'm going to turn off X symmetry, snap it to the middle, and then turn it back on. So we can move this book around in space wherever we'd like. And I can go ahead and scale this down and start positioning this. So what we can do, let me thin that up a little bit. So let's turn off X symmetry. So we've got a book here. You know what? Let's shoot this out the back because I want to have a working mesh of this file. I'm going to duplicate this off. We'll hide that one. So now with this one, we can start playing around. So like we were saying before, if we're just doing like a boring library, we can hold down Control, drag out, and then let go of Control, and just populate this thing. Or like we were talking about earlier, we can hit W, turn on our transpose here. So instead of the gizmo, we'll use transpose. We'll go into array mesh, and we'll say array mesh, transpose, locks position, lock size. We're going to say U, or at the end here, we're going to repeat this however many times. And then we'll stuff this in here. So we can kind of cap and then turn on our repeats really quickly. So you can do that. You're not going to have a whole lot of control. Like even if you went into here to scale, you can like scale them here, but you can't do like random scale or random widthness, random widths. So in this case, array mesh probably is what I'm looking for. Now, what I do want is to, I'm going to duplicate this one off. I'm going to turn off my original here. So we're going to go to Insert, Multiple Edge Loops, and we're just going to drop in some little liners back here that kind of line up with my shelves a little bit. So we're going to go into solo mode here. I'm going to mark these out, hold down Control Shift, isolate that, delete hidden, hit Control W, Shift D to go out of dynamic subdivision. And then now I'm going to go ahead and we'll go Insert Single Edge Loop. We'll get rid of that middle one here because I'm just going to, we probably only need to do this for one now that I think about it. Let's delete all those. So, Geometry, Modify Topology, delete hidden. Control Shift, visibility. So, QMesh, single poly. Let's do hover over an edge. We're going to inset. Now, insert multiple edge loops, no interactive elevation. And then however many books I want to put on the shelf, I can just have that thickness. And we can also, we'll mess around with the nanomesh properties. So, I'm going to hit Control W, make this all one poly group here. And now this book here, you know what? We can go ahead and delete that book, because we have this one saved. And this saved one here, I'm going to go ahead and clone that so it just shoves out a copy out here in the space. And let's go ahead and hit W, go back into gizmo mode. I'm not going to hold down Alt or anything. I'm going to snap it to the middle of my world here. It should have anyways. Let's see. Oh, X. Hold on. Go out of X mode. Hold down Alt to snap that to mesh center, and now make that go to the center of the world. So now that we have that sitting here, we can go back to our shelf here. You know what? I'm kind of doing the roundabout way for this. There's an easier way to do this. I'll show you in just a second. So if I want to insert these, I can go into my ZModeler brush, B, Z, M, and then hover over a face, and then we can insert nanomesh on all our poly groups. And I don't want to do cubes, although that could be okay for books if you wanted to play around with that a little bit. You can hit M and then just grab that book, and now you can grab those books. Another way you can do this is you can go here to your book, and we're just looking at it again, so we can go to Brush, Create Insert Mesh, New, and then convert it over here, Brush, Create Nanomesh Brush, or you can just immediately go Create Nanomesh Brush. Oh, we need an Insert Mesh. That's not true. So Brush, Create Insert Mesh, New, and now let's just go over here, Create Nanomesh Brush, and now if we go back to our plane here, there we go. So we have a nanomesh brush. So, and then again, you need to set it to polygroup all. So either way you want to do it is fine. Now we have a little bit more control. So if we turn our shelf back on, go out of solo mode, go over here to our nanomesh properties. So now we can say we have the overall size. And then, since our polyplane isn't set perfectly, you can go ahead and move that. Since these nanomeshes are being dictated by, hold on, are being dictated by the vertices. So they're just instances sitting on top of vertices. So, and they're being controlled by them. So what I can do is I can just move this plane around to kind of center them. I can also use my offsets here. So you're going to see they're kind of right in the middle. If I take my Z offset and kind of stick them so they're not going through the plane here. Now they're sitting in my bookshelf a little bit nicer, and I can even crank that up a little bit more here. And then also what I can do is that Z offset, I can also give a little variance. So these are all very, very organized. If I do a variance here, now they're kind of just a little bit random. I can do the same thing with the width here, so I can make them skinnier or bigger overall, or I can go to variance, and some of them be thicker, some of them be thinner. Kind of break that up a little bit. Same thing with length here. So length is fine, but if we crank up that variance. Now the bad thing is it's doing variance from the middle. I wish I could say like variance from the bottom. Is there a way to do that? This is just, not sure of a way to do that, but that'd be really cool in this particular case. You can also do height variance. So some of the books are longer or shorter than the others, and all that good stuff. So that's one way to do it, but it is going to be, you're going to have to go back in here. You're going to have to convert these. One thing you could do, now that I think about it, let's try this, because we can do an array mesh, we can convert, okay, let's do that. We're just playing around here. So let's go ahead and say that was interesting, but we're going to hide this. We're going to take our book here. We're going to duplicate a copy out. Go to Unmesh Mesh Center. Throw it in here. So now if we do want to do an array mesh, W, Y to transpose, go in this direction. We want to do however many repeats we want to do, hit W, move it out here. So now we have array mesh in here. So with our array mesh, we can say convert to nanomesh. And now we have individual polyplanes controlling our nanomesh properties. So you can get the exact same thing here. And now you can change the length variance and the height variance and the width variance here. And now instead of having to control these books, you can just control these individual polyplanes here. Although if you inserted nanomesh on all polygons, you could move these things around. Basically, you can use, so this is what I'm thinking. So instead of moving these individual books around, you can still keep it cheap, and you can go in here, it's kind of hacky, but we'll hit, go into our move brush here. We're going to go into auto masking, topological, make your draw size down to 1, and then if you just click on one of these things, you can quickly go in here and you can kind of set them like so. Now the reason I made my brush size, oh come on, the reason I made my brush size really big, and I probably should have made these, divided these polyplanes up a little bit with a slice maybe. So if I make my brush size really small, is topological brush, you would think it's the opposite, but if you make your brush size really small, because you can make your brush size really big and you can move around multiple points too, but there could be just some distortion. If you make it really small, there won't be any distortion and you can just move the stuff around. So we can do this, and then if we want to, we can drag out copies of these polyplanes here. So if we turn off show placement, that'll get rid of your planes, but we'll have some books in there. And then, you know what, let's not put any variance on our height. No, we want variance on the height, but not the offset. No offset variance. That's weird. Anyway, you can straighten those out. Kind of a messy bookshelf here. Whew. Okay, let's see. And again, if I miss any questions, I apologize. Best way to analyze size in ZBrush is going to be under Z plugin, Scale Master. If you click on Scale Master right here, that'll open up a video on how to use Scale Master, and that'll give you the most precise precision over scale in ZBrush. Potato salad. Glad you can make it. How common is it for industry pros to use ZBrush for modeling instead of General 3D Package, 3ds Max, Miyamoto? And I can't speak for every studio, but nobody at my particular studio and studios I've worked for really care what you model in. The modeling part is, in really, at the end of the day, you're just beveling and you're just extruding faces. Some programs do it differently. So the modeling part isn't so concerning to the company. And again, I can only speak for mine, but when you get into the production side, when you're going through the backbone, which is usually controlled by animation, that's where they're a little more particular, that you have to have knowledge of, if your backbone is like through my entire career, the animation pipeline has always gone through Maya, so you do need some Maya knowledge to be a character artist, because you will be working in Maya to get your assets into game and to deal with skinning and bones and stuff like that. Hey, thanks for showing up. Mikkel, can you showcase how you can build good animation topology for something that won't have bakes? If it's not going to have a bake, it would just be ZRemesher. That's how lazy I am. And animation topology is really just putting in edge loops, concentric edge loops, where things bend. So it's like, oh, I need an edge loop here, here, and here. And you can get, if you're having a little bit more constraints on your overall Like if you're really limited to the amount of polys you can have on screen, you can like collapse the interior exterior edges, and then you can just have more edges, so you can go in here and you can paint weights to get a pointy elbow eventually. So you need to have polygons where you need them. But yeah, and I'm not sure, like I was saying before, if we're doing like stylized, super stylized, low poly modeling for stylization, I wouldn't be the guy to ask about that. I've never done it. I've seen it done. I think it looks really cool, and I would love to do it someday, but that's just never come up. But yeah, if I'm just doing, it's like, oh, here, this thing needs to animate, and just ZBrush. And if they need something more than that, like, oh, you need specific polygons in specific places, well, just manually retopologize that stuff, and then everywhere your mesh bends, make sure you don't have spirals, and then everywhere your mesh bends, just give them enough edge loops so that they can get nice deformations on joints. That's about it. It's not rocket science, but it is tedious. Cool. Production level workers are practically used for blend shapes in ZBrush, which are more of a Maya workflow. You can use blend shapes if you're doing the layer system in ZBrush. You can use that as a linear interpolation of it'd be a linear interpolation, which is the same thing as a blend shape. So you can go through and just kind of blend out expressions that you'd use as blend shapes or blend corrective shapes in game or in another program. So you can use that. But it's not gonna be a perfect transfer. It's not gonna be like, oh, take this information and plug it into my blend shapes. Well, you know what? Maybe I'm lying. There is a blend shape. Hold on. ZBrush downloads. Google that. Go to the download center. And then go to ZBrush plugins. And then somewhere in here is blend shapes. Easily convert sculpted layers in ZBrush into blend shapes for Maya 2015 and above. So you can download that. You can learn more. So you can use, okay, I kind of lied. You can use this to make that transition a little bit easier. Automatically installed with the default installation of ZBrush. Maya blend shapes is automatically installed. Is it? Am I just not seeing it? There it is, Maya blend shapes. I was looking for blend shapes. So yeah, Maya blend shapes. New layer turn off. I've never used it, but that might be something interesting. Use the bottom of the shelf instead of the back to draw out the books and then rotate. Yes, you can absolutely do that. So what Alex is talking about, we have our polyplane here and we're putting in the books here. But if we go from the bottom and then use that, we know the bottom's going to be set. See? This is why you want to work around brilliant people like Alex so they can save your butt in production. So we're going to take this shelf right here. And so this is an array mesh shelf, which is okay. We can just take this bottom one here. We're going to duplicate this off. Let's turn off array mesh. Go into solo here. Hold down Alt, grab this one, and we'll go ahead and say delete hidden, Control W, make this all in polygroup. Let's go ahead and do insert, single edge loop, get rid of that one. Shift D, so we're not smoothing it. Insert multiple. Now let me think about this, because I can scatter randomly along a plane, but it'll be a little bit harder to control. We'll see. We'll just do it the way we did before. Now, here's another thing about insert nanomesh is, for example, we'll make this all in polygroup, Control W. We'll go back to our insert nanomesh brush, which I think this is. Insert nanomesh polygroup all. Yeah, so if we do polygroup all, now we're going to do our books on here. We can rotate these books around like Alex was saying. However, we can also do, if you mark these ones, or let's say we want to go, you know what, you can Alt drag and then just let go and then tap Alt and it'll change polygroups here. So now because we put polygroups all, it's going to only put it on there. So you can mix and match what nanomesh things you want. You can also drag out one set of books here and then start dragging out another set and hold down Shift, and now you've got two sets of books. So you're going to see I have two nanomesh indices, and you can kind of mix and match between them. If you had more books in here, you could do that. We'll keep it simple for now, but that might be interesting. So, like Alex was saying, we've got this, and now we need to go into nanomesh here, and we're going to say rotation, Z rotation, let's put that to 0, and then our Y rotation, nope. X rotation is going to be 90. Now we need to set that offset here to get it up on our shelf. Now this, whatever offset I'm going to end up doing, which is in this case the Y offset, I don't want to put any variance on that one because then we're back where we started. So keep that variance at 0, but you can, let me see. So the width variance will work great. And then the length variance will work great. The height variance, okay, everything will work great. And the height variance I think I'm going to leave alone for now. There we go. Boom. Planted variance. Whew. Thank you again, Alex. Any advice on how to do street roads and pavements in ZBrush? Street roads would be probably following a curve and then modeling out from there, especially if you're going to be going over any sort of terrain. Pavement, let's do a little bit of that. So we've got our bookshelf scene going. Let's go ahead and do, we want to put a base on this thing. So this is going to get a little bit weird with my array mesh knowledge, but we'll give it a shot. So I'm going to take this poly mesh here. We're going to go into initialize. Let's drop these down to 1. So 1 tab, 1 tab, 1 tab, Q cube. So very, very simple Q cube. And then we can hit W, and then just, oh, that's why. Go into Gizmo here. So we're going to put in a little pavement brick, and this brick can be any shape you want. I'm just going to make a simple brick. And then on this brick, we're going to go back into geometry, dynamic, Q grid of like maybe 5, coverage here, and then smooth of 1. So we're just going to get a little beveled brick, and it's fake, so I can do Shift D and D to turn that on and off. Now I'm going to steal from array mesh here, Lightbox array mesh presets, and we can go in here and say, you know what, give me some offset bricks. And it's going to, let's do Shift D to turn that off temporarily. So I may have to make some changes to this thing, so let's see if we can't just, that's going to do overall. Let's do transpose off, lock position, lock size. So we can do that, and we can do that. So we're starting to get that. And now if I move this, nope. Okay, I'm going to go to my different stages here. So stage 1, this is working fine. I can do a little bit more of an offset to kind of space those out. Or we can go into transpose, hit Y, go into transpose here, and we can say, you know what, with move turned on, I'm going to move you out. So it just gives you a little bit more control. And then for stage 2, which is this one, we can say you need to offset up a little bit more. And then stage 3, you all need to offset up even more. Okay, so here's our little brick. And again, make this any pattern you want. You can make repeatable patterns. You can use array mesh in different stages to kind of set up like cobblestones or anything like that. Or you can use nanomesh. You can convert this to nanomesh if you want to. It'll give you a nanomesh plane for every single one of your array meshes. Is there a reason I'd want to do that? Not yet. Now, this is just my plain Jane little brick setup here. So let's say we can convert to nanomesh. Not sure that I want to do that. Let's go ahead and do a, what am I looking for here? Make meshes grayed out, which means I need to, I've got an array mesh here. I don't want to convert to nanomesh. I want to make this a mesh. Let's turn off transpose. Whoops. Can I do geometry, convert BPR to geo? Okay. Huh. Okay. Geometry, convert BPR to geo. I got all my stages here. And now we can just use this. So if I take this one, go back to our scene here, and we can do insert our little thing here. Let's go back, hit Y, put this underneath. And if we want to make this a little less just like a square, we can go through here. We can say Control Shift. I'm going to grab all of these ones. I'm going to hold down Alt. Break these up a little bit, and then we can just do invert that Control Shift A to make sure we got all those polygons here. and then we can delete them. You can also just go through here selectively, and you can say, if you want to, go in here to auto groups, and now we can do, let's see if this will work, delete polygroup all, and you just go through here and you can just kind of delete out. Now, if you ever accidentally click on an edge and it wants to do something else, you can go in here and hover over an edge, and you can say, do nothing for edges, do nothing for points, and now you can just go through here and just kind of delete out these little things that you don't want here. Kind of break this up a little bit. Beep, boop, beep, boop, beep. There we go. If you want to get rid of some of these in here. And now, because we have these all in individual polygroups, you can go through here and you can hold down Control and tap, and you can like offset these a little bit. Although, if we had these as nanomesh planes, if we had converted to nanomesh, we could do variants. Ah, that would have been cool, because then we could just do height variances off of those and kind of break it up a little bit. And then you can turn D back on so you can kind of get the beveled look. Cool. Will nanomesh address the normal orientation on a curved low poly base? So normal vertex normal orientation on a curved low poly base. It should. Yeah, if you have if this is what you're, I'm not positive, but if we say make polymesh 3D and then we do insert, or let's see, polygroup polyloop here. Let's say that. And you know what? Let's go ahead and do a slide edge loop complete. I'm going to give myself a little bit more room here. And then we go in here and we grab our insert mesh, and then we say insert nanomesh on polygroup all. And then we say under our nanomesh properties, oh, where am I at? Not in any of this stuff. Nanomesh, here we go. So X, Y, and Z rotation. So Z rotation, I'm looking for 90 degrees. So we've got our vertex normal, and then you could use offset to kind of play around with that a little bit, but it should work. Oh, I think I'm behind again. Sorry. And if I miss any, I apologize. Can you export tools with creases instead of edge loops in Unreal 4? Oh, in Unreal 4? I'm not sure about the Unreal creasing part. You can export creases, I believe, through, I think that holds on into crease information on your ZFBX export. You can do that, or GoZ should export your creases, I believe. But you can also do it through like polygroups and then crease in your external program based on that information. Now, if you're talking about hard and soft normals, ZBrush only does all hard or all soft on export, so you can say soft normals or not. There's no way to set normal smoothing groups in that sense. But and in smoothing groups will increase your vert count. So if you have all average normals on your low poly, that's going to be a lot cheaper than if you go through and you make some of the normals, vertex normals hard, where it has to keep track of 2 locations. You are paying the cost for that if you have UV shell edges. So usually when you're doing hard surface stuff, if you already have UV shell, you go ahead and make those hard because you're already paying the cost. You get a little bit of a cleaner bake if you put your seams in the correct places. But that stuff I wouldn't do in ZBrush probably. Easy way to make a round shield with wooden boards in the middle and the metal ring holding it together. Make a round shield with wooden boards in the middle. Yeah, and that would just be ZModeler, I think. So we can even take this thing here, and we can say, let's turn off array mesh here. Or sorry, nanomesh off. Control W. We'll go ahead and say delete hidden. We can go close convex hole, Oh, you know what? This is too many polygons. So if you have more than like I think 24 or something spans, it's not going to play very nicely. So we'll go down here to initialize, and we'll say, you know what? Say 16. And then redivides, we can just put whatever the lowest is. Polymesh 3D. And now we can grab this top part here, close, convex hull. So this will be the rounded part of your shield here. And then if you want to make these into boards, you can go through here and you can slice this rounded part up. And then you can make that into ZBrush geometry. So for example, we can hit Control W. We'll use this as just our base. You can try and use like an insert mesh brush with boards and have it wrap to this using projection strength. That might be a little meh, but so if we duplicate this off here, and we'll go ahead and drop a crease on here, and we'll say apply that, and now we're just going to go through here, go out of solo mode, delete lower. You know what? I should have polygrouped this first. So if you polygrouped it first by normal angle, you can skip this part here. We're going to go ahead and delete hidden. And now we can do slice curve. So we want to put boards, like concentric boards on here. Let's go ahead and hit X symmetry. So we can just mirror this over. So now we've got our boards in there. And now hopefully we can do, I mean, even right now, you can just simply go in, if you don't care about geometry that much, you can go into edge loop here and you can do panel loops. And then we'll say polish off, thickness up. And you can start dividing this into boards if you want to, but you're going to start getting some nasty stuff around the edges. So this is where I would go into ZRemesher, whoops, keep groups, adaptive size down a little bit, let's say half. There you go. So now we're getting a little bit more control. So now when we go in here to panel loops, you'll get boards like so. And now these are warped boards to get your round shape. So depending on how you want to put it together, you can still have ZRemesher do the heavy lifting for you, and you don't have to use panel loops. You can just go in here and you can Z-modeler and bevel all this stuff if you want to, but that was just me being lazy. Or me being smart, I don't know, maybe both. So if we have this here, so now we still have this underlying base in here. So if you wanted to say, you know, because these things have a nice concave surface in here. So even on this one, I can say, you know what, let's go ahead and alt mark these ones. And we'll go ahead and delete these, and then you can just Q-mesh, polygroup all. You can pull this in. Oh, you know what? Looks like, let's do this. Delete hidden, Q-mesh, polygroup all. And if it starts doing some weird stuff, instead of Q-mesh, it didn't do it on that time, but you could do extrude polygroup all, and that way you don't have to worry about the snapping stuff. And now we can go to display properties, flip, to flip those normals, and now you have nice concave surface in here. If you wanted to use that, if you just wanted to have boards back here, you can put whatever. And I know this is a very curvy shield. It's probably going to be a lot less curved for an actual shield, but you know what? I'm not a shield expert. So we have this in here, which we may not necessarily need, but what we can do is we can take this poly loop here, polygroup, poly loop. Go ahead and make that a separate polygroup here. Let's go ahead and I'm going to take just that poly loop here, delete hidden, and now we can do a Q-mesh, and we can just ramp. So now we've got a little border around here. We can crease polygroup, dynamic subdivisions, crease level 3, smooth subdivision level 4, and we can start playing with that. And same thing over here if you wanted to like crease your polygroups and crease 3, smooth subdivision 4, and you can put in board sculpting or drag alphas on here. Let's see if we have any texture. No alphas. I know I brought them in. There we go. What am I looking for? Nature, skins, patterns, stencils, comic book, military paint. Well, if you had wood stuff, oh, there it is, nature. So you could go through here and you could just drag out some like wood grain on that, or you could sculpt it in, or like I said before, you could actually, if you have a board created, for example, split mass points, let's pretend like we have a really cool board already sculpted, and we already got a library of them. What you're going to want to do is make sure that that board has divisions here so we can have a little bit more control over it. So let's say this is a really cool board that we're using. You can just go in here to your deformation menu and you can say bend curve. I mean, you can do, if you know it's just going to be pretty even, you can just use bend arc to kind of position this. You can try use, I wouldn't necessarily want to do on something this extreme of an angle, do like matchmaker brush or projection strength. I would probably go in here to bend curve and then set this axis and then set the resolution to whatever you want. We'll keep it fairly simple. And now you'll have complete control over how these boards wrap around the underlying surface here. So you can just wrap your boards here like so, and I think that'll work. So anyway, delete that. So we got this here, and because, you know, this does have like a little bevel on it, we can say increase level of 2 to make that a little more obvious. And now we can go through here. We can always go QMesh polygroup all, hold down shift to give it a little bit more of a normal. You can add details around here if you wanted to like inset this, or you can bring this in a little bit. And we can say insert single edge loop here. Turn on polyframe. We can be like, I'm gonna make an edge loop there, and then we can slide this. Slide edge loop complete, and now we can say let's do a polygroup poly loop, and now we can QMesh this out, and then we'll run another crease, and then I'm going to slide this edge loop out a little bit, give it a little bit of, or maybe this one in. You know what, we'll do both. This one in a little bit, this one in a little bit. I mean, you could bevel that too if you wanted to. Whatever you want to do. And then we can put bolts around this if we want to. We can put bolts down the sides of here if we want to, using curve brushes. Hold on. I just saw that. Do I have Discord? I do have Discord. Why do I never think about that, though? Discord. Do I have it loaded? Oh, this monitor. For some reason, once a month, my monitor will behave erratically on the bottom here, unless I restart. It doesn't happen a lot. Disconnected. Give me a second. Oh, I got to update it. Well, yes, I do have Discord. I'll give you more information on that in a second. So, for example, you could use nanomesh, insert nanomesh if you wanted to. If you wanted to like put your bolts in a very specific places, you can just nanomesh out what you want, and then just drag out a bolt. You could also, you can isolate these top ones here, and you can say frame the border, and then put bolts all around the border of this. If you want to, you can do Control-Shift-S to shrink, and then you can frame this mesh here. So let's say stroke. Now I gotta log in. Yeah, screw that. Okay, so we're gonna say stroke up here, curve functions. We're gonna frame our border, and then if we want to, let's really quickly, let's grab brush, insert, industrial parts, M, bolt head. Oops, sorry, W, bolt head. So we're gonna steal that bolt head. We're gonna say stroke, curve mode. So now we have bolts along a curve here. And then if I want to space them out even more, we can say curve step up a little bit. There we go. So now we can go back to here, and because we have our bolts on a brush, we can just tap. Whoa, let's make them a little smaller than that. There we go. So now we can just put bolts along there if we want, and of course change those settings, change your size of the brush to get exactly what you want. Now again, like I was saying, if you want a little more precision control, what I would do is you can use insert nanomesh brush on this one, but you know what I like to do? I always like to work separately. So I'm going to duplicate this off, do Shift D, and we're going to say I want a bolt here, here, here. So we can be a little bit, I mean, this is kind of destructive in a way, but it's okay because I want them to be a little bit irregular. something like this, and I'm just going to say I only want these dots here, delete hidden, Control W, and now let's go back to our bolt that's just sitting out here. Let's undo all this. Now we can just use this, but just real quickly, we'll say brush, create insert mesh brush, new, and then brush, brain fart, create nanomesh brush, go back, and now on here, let's turn off our floor. We can say insert nanomesh, polygroup all, go ahead and drag our insert nanomesh, polygroup all, drag out our bolts here. So now if you don't want to see the plane placement, you can always go in here to our nanomesh, and you can say turn off show placement, and now this is where you can kind of play around with, like, you know what, I want to play around with the size a little bit, and you can always go through here if you have show placement on, you can say I want to move these around, because again, it's just based on where those vert positions of that is. Another thing you can do is you can go in here to edit mesh, and you're like, you know what, change my mind, I don't want a bolt, I want, or I want a bolt, but I want to have, you know, this, whoops, QMesh polygroup. I want the bolt to look like this. And you can just go back out of edit mesh, and then all of your bolts have been updated. However, what I would do, let's go ahead and QMesh these back down. Instead of doing that, I could also swap this out. So we go to brush, insert, industrial parts here, hit W, and you can just be any insert mesh brush. You can change it. You know what? I want Phillips head brush instead. So now all of your brushes have been updated to Phillips head. In this case, that's a little too high tech, so we'll go back in here. Not that I care about this so much, but we can hit W, and then we can go back to our bolt assembly here, out of edit mesh. And then you can even, you know, if you are playing with the size and the show placement, you can also play around with the offsets a little bit here. Y offset, Z offset, if you want to embed them more or less. And like I said before, you can just go through here and you can just move these out of the way a little bit. So and I think we still have our topology auto masking on. Yeah, so we're still good. And you could give variants to these, length, width, and height variants, but you know, those are pretty machined parts, so a lot of ways to skin a cat in this program, obviously. So now that we have that all built out, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take these and I'm going to merge them down. That's under Subtool Merge, Shift D and D. And then I'm going to take these ones. Let's merge them down temporarily. These are all one polygroup. Yeah. So here's what I'm going to do again. So I have this one, I can go into the nanomesh properties, or I can just go up, if I have multiple, I can go over here to geometry, convert BPR to geo, so I got real geo. I'm going to go ahead and delete those polyplanes, don't need them anymore. I can merge all this down. Let's go to, we can append it, or I can just make another insert mesh brush. Go back to our scene here. And then, do I have a null object in here? We'll use this one. Split mass points, and now we can have a little shield. Let's turn off X symmetry. And now you can split this up however you'd like. And again, I know it's pretty bulbous shield, but that's okay. Hit D, and then this inherited those properties here, so we'll do another crease level of 3, smooth subdiv of 4. Now it is creasing those bolts at a very high resolution. Let's do crease level of 2 here. So I'm setting up the boards in the border like I like, but on these ones here, I'm going to go ahead and split those off, and then we're going to smooth subdiv of like 1, crease level of 1, smooth subdiv of 2 maybe. A little bit better, a little bit more optimized. Something like that. And again, I am way behind in my things here. You hyped about 32 core Threadripper AMD just announced. Yes, so I need to upgrade this thing. post-haste. So for example, let's see, properties. Yeah, so what we're running today is the AMD Ryzen Threadripper 1950X 16 core. But you know what's better than 16 cores? 32 cores. Let's see. Oh yeah, sorry about Nightbot. He's very protective. What does Unify do? So what Unify does, and I use this all the time, is if you have any random object, you know what, I guess we can stay in our scene there. So let's say we have, I'm going to take this shield here, and we're going to duplicate it off. And let's say I want to make this shield snap to the middle of my world and also become the exact same size as the bounding box of a primitive ZBrush square. All I got to do is hit Deformation to Unify. And it's going to, again, snap it to the middle of my world and scale it. And that scale is based on, if we go to Insert, Polymesh 3D. Nope, not that one. Insert, Cube 3D. There we go. You're going to see, we turn on transparent and we just show these two. There we go. So you can see, let's turn off Ghost. You can see my shield fits perfectly within the bounding box of that and that poly cube. The reason I like to use Unify is because I like working at ZBrush's scale. That's not to say you can't bring in an external thing like Fusion 360 or Maya and you're working at their scene scale. When you import objects in, and Joseph Drust explains this better than I do, you're going to have size information, and that size is, ZBrush is going to try and normalize your scene scale externally into ZBrush scale so the tools work properly. So it's going to size it to like a 2, and then on export, it's going to have a scale number in here, and that's going to be, it could be anything, and it's going to multiply that size by the scale and give you your exported scale. But because we're working in ZBrush scale, those numbers are going to be 2 and 1. I know that didn't make any sense, but like I said before, under that Z plugin Scale Master, if you go in here and watch this video, he'll explain a little bit better than I do. Zero mesh model with keep groups on, where the groups met topology is really ugly. The edge between the groups be as smooth as possible. Yeah, so what the video is saying, try polishing the groups, also turning polish up, and really, let me go back here. Playlists. Like in the live stream highlights, probably your best bet is this polygroup head ZBrush cleanup. So this is where we go through and we do the ZBrush with groups with smooth turned on and a bunch of options, and then cleaning up this with Z-spheres. That's probably the best video you're going to find on my channel on how to get nice easy geometry and then clean up that easy geometry if you have problems, and also mitigating some of those issues with your polygroups. Let me just link this here. Best tool to unwrap, ZBrush or Maya for a game asset model. Depends on what you want. ZBrush isn't going to give you a ton of control, but it is going to be fast and easy. But if you need total control, any 3D program has good UV tools. I would say Maya's are pretty damn good. Pedis you can use. Playlist video for ZBrush rendering with required passes. It's really complicated. I didn't go into the passes part, but the image-based lighting is the latest rendering one I just did on that playlist. Compositing passes, I think, Intro to ZBrush Part 3, I did manually compositing, and I think that's locked behind Gumroad. ZBrush Core, surprisingly, I think I did some compositing. Maybe not. Render passes. Yeah, so I've talked about render passes in the past, where you basically, let's go ahead and say you are deleted. You are transparent. So every time you hit BPR, and watch the other lighting one, then I'll go into more detail, but basically render pass. This is easier to control, so you can go through here and you can just manually export these. Let's turn off polyframe here so you can see a little bit better. Turn on perspective. So You can export these render passes just by clicking on them and exporting them individually. You can also do Z plugin, ZBrush to Photoshop, and then this video will walk you through, how to use this and what all these things do and any problems you might run into and what all these different buttons mean, what you're exporting. I do find that this, because I don't do a lot of compositing or cleanup work, I do find that ZBrush, this Photoshop file, is a little bit complicated for my brain. I'm sure it's perfectly non-destructive and excellent for people who do a lot of Photoshop stuff, but for me it's kind of a complicated thing. So I would use this as my start, and then I would just manually export things and layer them how I think in Photoshop. I guess we don't need this one anymore. Efficient way to texture the brick tile floor. Texturing is for a few variants of duplicator using a cube and applying a normal map to it. Honestly, if I'm texturing stuff, I'm not going to do it in ZBrush. I'm going to texture that in Painter. More information on that would be like at the live stream highlights, where we go through. What I would do, I guess, is like Google an image of bricks, bring it into Spotlight, and then paint through Spotlight onto the brick. That would be the quickest, easiest way to get something approaching naturalistic quickly. Same thing with the books. You can just do that. And like Babu says, using surface noise, it would be a good option too if you just want to kind of break up these surfaces. And again, this is so destructive. Like if I wanted to bake this later, I wouldn't put surface noise on here. If you're just going to render in ZBrush, then by all means use surface noise. If you're going to bake that noise out into a texture, just do it in the texture. There's no point. It's not breaking the silhouette, so I just do the surface noise non-destructively later on in the pipeline. But in ZBrush, we can go over here to surface noise here, and you can actually use surface noise to make bricks if you wanted to. If you go in here to noise plug, there is a brick, I believe. There's all sorts of stuff in here. You can do hex tiles and stuff. So if you didn't want real individual bricks, you could just use surface noise for your bricks. And then you actually convert that to geometry too, and you can put spaces in there. That's another live stream. But basically we have noise in here, and we have basic noise. We can kind of crank this up and change our noise strength and our noise scale here. And turn off noise plug here. There we go, a noise scale. Scale that up, turn that strength down. So you can kind of see, depending on your curve in here, you can go through here and make this brick whatever you'd like. Hit OK. And now, when we render, the brick will have little surface undulations. You can go back in here and edit, and you can crank that strength up quite a bit. There we go. Now I can see a little bit better. Cool. Achieving photorealism in environment work. Oh, Matthew says, and polish by group a few times and try that again. You can do polish by group, but you can also, if you just want to polish only the polygroup borders, for example, make polymesh 3D. Let's go ahead and dynamesh this thing. So you got a weirdo object here, and you want to have a slice through here, and you want to maintain that border, but you want to smooth just that border out. Actually, it's dynamesh at a very low resolution. There we go. And you want to just smooth that border out. You can go in here to your masking, and then you can say mask by groups, and then invert that, and then you could just polish by features just that border. Or if it's really that lumpy, you can do edge loop mask border, but we sliced it, so yeah, there's a lot of different ways to kind of clean that stuff up. Photorealism environment work, that's not really my forte. Megascans, scan data, photogrammetry. ZBrush work I'm most proud of. probably the last thing I made, and then a month later I'll look at it and not be very proud of it at all, unfortunately. So always not very proud of much. I am standing right now. And you know what? Let's try this again. Give me a second. Let's say. Now I don't. Okay, so this is going to be stupid of me. Give me a second. I'm on Discord. I don't have a Discord server set up or anything like that, but I can probably figure that out. Hasn't really been a priority, but let me log in real quick. So here and here. Oh, goodness. Two-factor authentication here. There we go. Okay. Logged into Discord. Thank you. What's new? Streamer mode is enabled. Stay safe, friend. So it's enabled. Let's see if I can figure this out real quick. 129 friends. Add friend. Oh, this monitor's killing me. Pending 6. Accepted, 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 accepted. You can tell I'm not on Discord ever. So my Discord number is what? Oh man, I'm the worst. You know, this is what happens when I get on something and then I never ever use it at all. Let me see if I can just find you the damn number. Help, Pav Mike. Profile. I don't know. I'm on Discord. I'll figure that out later. And really, I don't even need to see the image. Like, if it's just a dragon, it's the same thing as an anteater. It's the same thing as a human being. So, you know, just polishing these things and using ZBrush. And ZBrush may not be perfect. It may be easier just to do mask this border by groups and then say, what am I looking for here? Polish by features here. So we can smooth that out to give ZBrush a little bit of extra help. And let's do closed circle so it maintains our a little bit better. So we can say ZBrush. Of course, we want to keep groups. And then this, when you turn keep groups on, your smooth groups is going to turn on. If you don't really care, it'll go ahead and smooth that group line for you. And then we can just say half. And you can always be projecting back out to your original mesh. If you get any nasty stuff like this, while you're ZBrushing it down, you can go through here and you can help it. It's like, hey guys, play nice. And you can even go in here and say collapse. And like, hey, clean up your act. And now when you keep ZBrushing, it'll go ahead and clean that up for you. It's not perfect, and if you ever needed to in a pinch, you can just separate these things out. You can do like split hidden, and then you could ZBrush them separately and then stitch them back up later. It'll get a little bit messy, so that's not ideal, but hey Predrag, thanks for showing up. And again, I'm probably pretty behind. If I have a spider or some star model, I'm going to use the bend curve to form and manipulate only one spider leg or star spike. Yeah, it should. You can do masking, or you can split the leg out temporarily, use bend curve, and then append, and then merge it back down. But you can use masking. You might have a little bit of difficulty getting those dots to show up where that's meaningful, but if you're working in AAA Studio, will they give every ZBrush modeler a high-end computer like yours? Yeah. My work computer isn't as nice as this computer. It's a little bit older, but it's not nothing to sneeze at. Cool. Yeah, Maya, use UVs in Maya 2018. Get around ZBrush bridging gaps, causing the webbing effect when using Dynamesh, say on fingers and a hand. You're going to have to, so for example, Pavwork 01 full episode. Basically, you're going to see when I'm building this body up, I take those hands and I split them off and work on them separately so I can work on them at a higher resolution so I don't get the webbing. Or I can just subdivide them so I don't get the webbing. And then later on, I go ahead and merge them together. So basically, long story short, work on them separately from the body if you want to work at different resolutions. And then that way your resolution on your hands will stay unwebbed and you can work on them. And then once your body gets up to a resolution of your hands, you can merge them together and Dynamesh them all together. ZBrush, project your details back, and then you have a nice working mesh. Curves with IMMs to work. I don't know that there's, I mean, it should be, so we made one, and granted, it was a pretty simple one. Is this the one where I had the curve? So, stroke, curve functions. Now, this is a simple one because it is just, it's not a tri-mesh brush or anything like that, or I'm welding anything. But as far as how curve brushes work, it should be pretty stable. Let's see. Let's get rid of that. So your draw size here dictates that, and then you can go through here and you can manipulate this curve. And with ZBrush 2018, you can actually go through here and you can hold down Control and you can twist along a curve if you want to, which is nice. Nice for hair creation, stuff like that. For helixing, which we've gone over in my, oh boy. Let's do, yeah, Dragon Ball Z hair creation. You can look that up. So this is where we go through and we do our hairbrush. Make a oh, this is where we're blocking out the hair. Make a basic hairbrush, and then kind of make that kind of thing. I'm trying to think of any weirdo stuff. Sometimes stuff won't weld correctly on a thin plane, but it should be pretty straightforward. I haven't had any pitfalls necessarily besides like single-sided planes not welding for hairbrush type stuff. ZBrush 2018 hard surface techniques, probably not a whole lot different. Honestly, besides project primitive, it's no different than ZBrush 4R8. So here's ZBrush 4R8, what's new, and then under the Sci-Fi Pistol series, the only thing I would change about this pistol series is maybe a little project primitive exploration. But there's not really a whole lot of hard surface stuff in 2018. It's mostly just Sculptris Pro and project primitive. Smooth based on angle. When I bevel something, it's not noise or as clean as I want to. Deformation smoothing, but smooth the bevel angle too. Smooth based on angle. Kind of, I think. So, I'm trying to think if I have an object that would be... Okay, let's see. You know what? We can just start out with a oh, whatever shape. So if we want to smooth based on angle, and it's a hard surface model. So you know what might be easiest? This is I just want something like, let's hold down Control Shift. I'm going to go in here to trim curve. And I'm just going to make something like this. And now let's see if we can't go in here, zero measure, keep groups, smooth groups down, size 0.5. And ZBrush isn't going to be perfect for every situation. It is going to have problems. Like this isn't going to be perfect by any means. This is where I would have to go in and help it a little bit to kind of clean some of this stuff up in here. Also, let's try like maybe a weld distance. Just kind of weld some of these points up. Is it going to let me? A little bit. So we'll say go ahead and like, oh, you know, that's fine. Yeah, it's making some really weird decisions over here. So it'll work within reason on organic stuff. On hard surface stuff, it might start falling apart. You may need to go in there and throw in a little bit more helper stuff than you would need. Basically what I'm getting at is if you were to go in here, you can crease by normal angle. So you can, for example, I mean, in this case, if we hit Control W, it's like, oh, we don't have polygroups. How do I know where my creases are going to go? You can go in here to crease, and you can crease by crease tolerance. So wherever the crease is greater or less than 45, you can drop that down. We can pick up a little bit more of these edges here. So wherever I have creases now, you can go into the crease bevel, and then wherever you have creases, you can bevel those. Your creases. That could be one way to select crease by your normal angle, and then bevel those creases. Predrag says bricks. The tiny grain detail is usually done detail normal map. Yeah, and that's another thing too, is like why I wouldn't bake this little tiny details out in ZBrush is because it's going to be in the texture. And even in the texture, what you would probably end up doing is just giving it a material ID. And then in Unreal, let's say the material is going to have a tiling detail map, like Predrag is saying, and then it's just going to look super high res. And although in reality, it's just a really small map being tiled multiple times over the surface. Cool. Can you twist the whole? Oh, using Decimation Master before zero meshing could also be a solution. You'd want to make sure under Decimation Master, freeze borders. I don't know if it'll keep your groups very well. That might be tricky. Twist the whole curve, or how do you do that? The whole curve, what I would do, honestly, if I'm doing like hair and stuff, you know what? I think we have our hairbrush. You know what? I don't, but we'll just go ahead and use this. So, for example, edit, make polymesh 3D, and even, you know, you can drag your hairbrush out on a plane. You can also go into as line. You can just drag out a hairbrush here. So I would go ahead and say, so we've got our curve in here, and if you want to manipulate this curve, make it blue, and then you can go through here, and then you can also make this big. Now you can turn off dynamic and make this blue maybe really big. No, it's just going to lock to the size of the overall object, it looks like. Doesn't matter. So you can start doing this. Whoa. Sorry. Hold down Control and start twisting around the curve if you want to. But what I would probably do is go ahead and split mask points, hit W, go into our bend curve. And now this one is where you can get control over these things. And if you want to twist down the whole thing, you can make your resolution very small, like say 1. And then you can go through here with this one, and you can twist down the whole length of the object like so, if you want to. Or if you had more resolution, you can do that on either one. So you can go like, I want this to kind of move around like so. And then on any one of these points, you can go through here and you can kind of twist like that. And now even on this one, if you don't like that geometry, let's see if we do a zero mesher same. We can go ahead and give new geometry to that, and let's do half now. Oh, adaptive size down to 0. There we go. So a little bit nicer geometry. When I've created an insert mesh curve, I can't readjust the insert mesh size for some reason. That should just be, let's turn off as line. So you've got this, and then if you're hovering over this blue draw size is only your manipulator draw size. Out here where it's red, that's where it turns into the size of the mesh. So that might be one thing. So you got manipulator, which is blue, and then draw size, which is red, and that's what controls the size. On your curve brush, if that doesn't work, I don't know what could be causing that, unless like something under your brush modifiers, you have like a strength multiplier, but then again, that would still be controlled by the size. I don't know what would cause that. I'm not sure about that. Let's see. Yeah, because even this one here, and that's another cool thing about curve brushes, is you can update this curve, any curve in your scene, with a new curve brush. So if we go back to our original brush here, we can update this curve here. And now this one, yeah, isn't a triparts brush or anything like that, so there's no welding going on. Brush, stroke, curve mode, there we go. So yeah, size, bigger. Did I just break something? Let's see, brush, stroke, curve mode, curve step, and then frame mesh. Let me see, let me delete all these. Oh, you know what? This might just be an insert mesh brush. So now I'm just dragging out curves, but it's not associating it with a shape anymore. That's weird. I think I just busted something. Anyway, try this again. Brush, create insert mesh, new, stroke, curve mode. So we've got our stars, and then make the stars smaller, make the stars larger, manipulate the stars. Am I going to E3? I don't think so. When is that? I have to look at my schedule. Now, let me see if I can figure out. So, Pav Mic, where's that damn 4-letter code? I'm online. Pav Mic. And see, this is how the same thing I feel about Instagram, where I'm like, oh, I just want to do something simple. And it's like, this is, I don't get it. Like, I learn new stuff every day, but when it comes to this stuff, it's just such a nightmare. Like the one piece of information I need to know is buried, hidden somewhere. And of course my monitor keeps turning off, which doesn't help. I can watch live on Twitch. I know that. I'm on it. I'm doing it. Mentions, help. Member lists, pin messages, muting a channel. I don't care about any of that. What I care about is my number. Where is that? I can create a channel. That's fine. User settings has not a damn thing. Are you kidding me? Who wrote this garbage? Notifications. This is literally the worst thing I've ever used in my life. All right, I'm too stupid for Discord. I apologize. Try to use curves with Z modeler, brush, nanomesh, duplicate. That would probably not be a good thing. You're right. So that little breakage I had. Cool. Invite people button. I see that. So invite people, invite friends to Pav Mic, search for friends. Or send a server invite link to a friend. So it's hidden, use the copy button. Do I even have a server set up? I don't know. Let's see. That. EFHZWX. All right. If I figure, hey, there we go. So I do have a server automatically set up, apparently. I just can't find that 4-digit code. All right. Something like that. Thank you, Pro. Instagram's just one of those things where it's like, oh, you can't post links and you have to have it on your phone. So if you're doing 3D work, I don't model on my damn phone, so I got to save screenshots to like a Google Drive photo thing and then or video, and I got to copy it. I got to go search for it and put it on my phone and then upload it to Instagram. It's just barf. It would be great if I was like a traditional artist where I'm like, oh, I just drew a drawing. Let me take a picture of it and upload it. Great. Or I made some clay and I take a picture of it and upload it. Great. But when I'm doing 3D art, I have to jump through 5 hoops just to get a damn image on Instagram. I know, I should model on my damn phone. Is there a good app for that? They made ZBrush for the phone yet? All right, I think that's all I got. I can take this meshes. So we've done a little bit of weirdo stuff today. Hopefully you guys found it somewhat interesting. If we want to go ahead and say, you know, I've got these books on here and I've got some nice variants, but I want to make them a little bit better, what I can do is I can go into our BPR settings here. Let's say geometry, convert BPR to geo. So now I can get rid of these planes, or this plane, I should say. And then delete hidden. And I'm just going to go ahead and do a quick auto groups, and then W, we can control tap any one of these and then move it around. You know what we can also do? Let's do our move brush, very small size, and auto masking here, topological. I'm just going to quickly, let's turn off X symmetry here, and we can kind of just shove these around. Now I can leave some space in between here, so we can kind of break these up a little bit more. And you know what? For randomization, it didn't do a great job. Like there's, yeah, I don't know. So hit W, you can tap any one of these. You can hold down Control and you can drag out a copy. You can hold down Control and then you can like tilt one of these and maybe tilt one of these here. So you can kind of start breaking up this a little bit. Maybe put in some cool bookends if you wanted to. We can hit D for dynamic subdivisions. Let's go ahead and do a quick crease. Oh, you know what? The crease was fine. It's this damn Q grid, smooth grid, crease level of 1, 2, 3. There we go. And position these books. And since they're just books, I can actually fudge it a little bit and scale them as needed. And obviously, before you start doing all this stuff, you probably want to make a version that has paper in it, just in case you do see it. And then we can just drag out 1, 2, 3. And then on here, you know, once you have a bunch of books in there, this is where you can go through here and you can do, what just happened, tab. Hold down Control Shift, so we can say, you know what, just really quickly, I'm going to swap this. Let's do Shift D. There we go. I want to swap these books here to here. And this is really ugly and like obviously still a repeating pattern, but if you're just looking for a quick breakup, and then once you've done this, again, use all your tricks if you want to do, you know, your topology brush or group by normals and go through here and grab things. Control tap. Come on, Control tap. There we go. Change these things around. Of course, let's do another auto groups. There we go. Something like that. So get some quicker breakup here. So we've got Discord up and running. We have people on a server. I can message. So it's another thing. So okay, I'm going to try and use Discord on these streams as well, and that might be another option for people. All right. Hey, thanks for showing up from Cuba. Alrighty. Boss Rat, we're just about to wrap up. You missed some, but it's all going to be on my YouTube channel here. Speaking of YouTube, oh, this monitor is going to kill me. So here, if you go to my YouTube channel, let me see, YouTube. Go to the video section, and the latest live stream will be on there, so I'll link you to that. And then also the Pavlovich Workshop, I'm on there. I'm on Pixelogic page every Tuesday. Oh, not every Tuesday. First and last Tuesday of the month. I'm on this channel first and last Thursday of the month. I'll try and schedule that. I'm trying to stick to that schedule. And the videos recommend vector displacement. Get proper results. I got you covered. Yeah, I can link him some stuff. But anyway, all right. Cool. Yeah, send me all your money. Thanks, everybody. I will see you end of this month Tuesday, end of this month Thursday. And we'll have some more good stuff for you and videos coming out. The latest one that we just did, the latest series we did, is that ZBrush image-based lighting. I think you guys might like that. There was an interesting conversation I had going with somebody on here where it's basically use image-based lighting with all the shadows turned off, and then I think it was under the macro. And I also updated the macro button. The show thread should go to where the macro is to turn off the shadows. There it is. So yeah, use this macro from Marcus to do that. But the whole idea was using this macro to turn off all but one light, which you can also do in the comments in here somewhere as mentioned. You can turn off all the lights for your light cap and then turn on a light up here to control your shadows even better. So you can use one of these lights, turn the intensity down and just use it for shadow information, and then use your light cap for just light information with no shadows at all. It might give you some control. Cool. Don't tell your teachers that. All right, cool. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to sign off, and I'll catch you all next time.